These notes are on using your graphing calculator to solve a quadratic equation or find the x-intercepts of the quadratic. The first part of these instructions are instructions that you have by now probably worked with. If not, there's a nice reminder there of what it is that you're doing in the first part. So turning on the calculator, pressing y equals, plugging in the function x squared. So my x is one of these three variables listed here, so x squared, subtracting 3x plus 2. Now I'm at the point where this would be something that's sort of, no, sorry, let me graph that first. Let me take a minute for my calculator. There we go. Now, because this graph, the x-intercepts, which is what I'm solving for, are so close together up here, I'm actually going to I want to shrink my window so that I see more of this picture between here and have this. So I'm going to go to my window. And I'm going to say, I don't need out to negative 10 for my x's. So maybe I'll go -1. Maybe for my y max, I'll go 5. For my y min, the -10 is not so helpful. Maybe I'll go -1. And then let's graph this and see what we get here. So now I'm getting a much clearer picture. I actually maybe want a little bit more of the negative y values and a little less of the positive, so I'm going to adjust that again just a little bit more. Maybe I want -5 here and more like 5 there. Let's see what picture I get now. Yeah, it's a pretty good picture. So now I'm going to do the part where I'm looking for the x-intercepts. So now that I've got my graph shown on my screen, I want to calculate something. And so the calculate button is the blue button above the trace. So that's my blue second trace. And then I'm given these options. And we can see here that I'm given the options of a value as 0, minimum, maximum, intersect, etc. Now, if you'll remember, we've used a number of words to talk about x-intercepts sort of interchangeably, and they mean slightly different things, but one of those words is a 0, meaning when y is 0. So I press 2. Now this is the part that can get a little bit confusing, is that my calculator wants me to tell it where to look. It doesn't know where to look. It's like, this graph is beautiful, it's all here, but where do I actually look? So it's going to ask me for my left bound, meaning I want it to look at on the left side of an x-intercept. We have 2 of them, so I have 2 left sides. For this x-intercept right here, the left side sits over here. But for this x-intercept, the left side sits in the middle. I need to do it twice, therefore. So I'm going to do the one that is to the most left first. So now my cursor, I've moved it over by using the left and right cursor buttons, is now to the left of that first x-intercept that I want. So I press enter. Then it says right bound. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the right of that x-intercept right there and press enter. And my calculator, but yours may not do this, actually kind of shows you where those 2 bounds are. It actually is kind of saying to you, let's shrink the picture and only look at the piece of it where I'm seeing just the x-intercept part. And not a second x-intercept, just the one that I want to look at. Now the calculator always asks me if I want to guess, and I generally don't care to guess, so I press enter. And there's one of my x-intercepts, x equals -1. So I'll write that down. Sorry, +1. So I have 1, 0. So now we're going to do the process again to find the other one. So again, second trace or calculate. I want to find the zeros of the x-intercepts. I need to be to the left of my second x-intercept, so that's over here. I need to be to the right of that second x-intercept, so that is over to the right. I don't care to guess. And there's my other x-intercept, 2, 0. Now there's a second way to look for x-intercepts with your calculator. Just be aware that the only way this works is to get an exact answer. The only way that this is going to work is if your x-intercepts are integers. And that's true for this graphing method. If they weren't integers, you get an approximate value for your x-intercepts. So just be aware that exact values, there are going to be times where you get an estimated answer, and that means that the x-intercepts are not integers. So let's look at the table. So if I go second graph, it's going to give me a picture of my table here. And I know parabolas are symmetrical, so I know that they have a place where they go from getting bigger to smaller, smaller to bigger. And if I'm looking for the x-intercepts, I'm looking for the place where the y's are 0. So that happens right here, where x is 1 and x is 2 is where my two values for y being 0 are.